Hello and welcome. We have a couple members of Dorado Gaming Iota here. We have Kpepps and Masuf here, the jungler and top for the team. And now that the ranking has come out, I can say that you guys were currently ranked number 1 going into the season. What do you guys think? Is that your expectations for the roster? Do you guys think that you are currently the best team and will be the best team at the end?
I think it's sort of like an interesting question. I think playing for Dorado, the expectation in any league that we play in is to come in first. Anything less is a disappointment. I would say I think in our current form, we're still practicing, and there's a lot that we're still sort of putting together as we formed this team with 3 new parts about a month ago. So I'm not sure if I would sit here and say that we're definitively the best team. I mean, coming off of losing against Technics' roster, and we've scrimmed some other rosters that have had some pretty successful results against us. So while we're not definitively the best roster in my head right now, I think at the end of the split we will be.
That makes perfect sense. How about you, Masuf? What do you want me to call you, by the way?
Just Masuf is fine, or Mason. Okay. Either one is good.
Mason's easier if you don't mind it.
Yeah, that's totally good.
Perfect.
So for me, I definitely think that we're the number 1 team, and I would think that no matter what league we're playing in, whether it's ADL, ACL, even though that might sound crazy, because confidence is just a huge thing for me in how I play, right? I play really confident in lane. I play like I'm just the better player, and I think if I lose that, then it's going to be a huge problem for me and our team as a whole. So I just go into every league expecting to win it, expecting to be number 1, and yeah, that's just a big part of how I play.
I think that shines through in your laning, by the way. Just wanted to say that. Alright, so I'm happy that you guys have high thoughts of you, since I do as well. But when the rosters came out and you were able to see all the other teams, all 23 other teams, did any team in particular catch your eye? Any that you were like, yeah, that's going to be a good team, or, oh, I really want to play against them? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the really obvious answer is Technics roster, with them beating us in finals, and I would say it's more or less the same roster, even under a different org. I expect that. I mean, I'm really excited that we get to play them in the regular season, and then hopefully we'll get to match up again in the playoffs. I'm hopefully gonna put out a more redeeming performance compared to what I did in finals, and so I'm happy to sort of get that revenge.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna have to agree with the Technics roster. That's, I think, the obvious one that should jump out to everybody. And then there's another one that I was looking at that I know is kind of split some people. It's that Cosmos Wings team. I don't know everybody on that team, but the few players that I do know, I know are really, really good, and they're top tier players. And I know Elsa is at least off roll, but I'm very curious to see how they're going to do the first few weeks, because I think they could definitely shock some people and be really good.
Yeah, perfect. Alright, so with that in mind, if you could you place who you guys believe are going to be the top 4 teams in the league?
Fortunately, I think my tier list is already out, so I think
That's
mine's
fair.
pretty easy, with it being the Technics roster, or I should maybe say Pink Chillers, but I know there's 2 of them. So the Technics roster, OE Dynasty, the Rutledge team, Cosmos Wings, and ID Honeyfruit.
Is this if you're not talking about yourselves?
Yeah, not talking about myself.
Okay, gotcha.
Not including us.
Because then it would be 2 through 5, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Alright, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not including us, I think the Bing Chillers Civil Standards roster is pretty equal to the OE, what are they, Dynasty?
Yeah, Dynasty.
I think they're pretty equal. I think OE Dynasty is also really good. Going back to the previous question, it's definitely them 2, and I'm honestly not sure about the other 2 spots. I think ID Honeyfruit could definitely be good, but I'm unsure about some of the players on that roster. And then 4th place, I don't know. It's really a toss-up between a lot of teams. I think Horizon could be good. They have a lot of returning players who are good. Maybe Cosmos Wings could get in there. I've heard some people talking about Subatomic Gaming, or even Sean's fan club. One of those, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, with 24 teams, there's a lot of talent out there for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely think like what's really cool, it's like comparatively to other splits, like I think last split it was a really definitive top three. And us, the XG Flying roster, which was Technics' team more or less, and it was I believe they were ID Honeyfruit in this league. It was Zhao Pipi's roster. Like I think it was definitive like a very top three teams, and then sort of everybody else, as was kind of showcased in the semis when both us and XG 3-0'd the teams we were playing against. And then I think it's sort of just in this league though, like I genuinely think there's like 7 or 8 very competitive rosters at least from the start.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a really, really fun split. I'm also very interested to see a lot of new players because I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I know most of the players in this league, so I'm interested to see what some fresh players can do.
Yeah, I think like the real wild card roster I saw was that Faceless team in Group A. I know none of the players, but I mean they're high ranked, so it's possible they'll end up being a really solid team.
Yeah, you just never know how it's going to come together, but I'm on board with that. I think that they definitely can be as well.
Yeah, so the thing that I think that is cool about this season is that like every season there's kind of random teams that just have random players on it, but it looks like this season there's some good teams that have random players on it, right? So maybe there'll be some more talented players coming in, right? Like I mentioned, that Cosmos team, it has some good players, has some players that I don't know, you know. Same with like Optimal Esports. I don't know the top laner or the bot lane, but we scrimmed them and they were very good. So I think that would be cool to see.
Yeah, I'm excited for the split. I'm sure everyone else is as well. So I'm curious. You guys have been around a while. You guys have both been on very successful teams and are well respected. For your current team, how do you think it stacks up compared to some of these previous teams that you've played for?
Personally, I would say like the team feels very. There's different dynamics things, of course, that always happen with different individuals, but it feels very similar to what we've already had on Iota, which is we go into a league and we probably like we can sit there and state that like we have undisputably some of the best players in some roles, and it's like I would say disputably in other roles the best players as well. It's stacking up against anybody, we have the top player, and it's like, well, the funny thing is I'm saying disputable, and I kind of mean that about myself, but it's like I look at players like Kush, Mason, and Dibble, and it's like I think they're just undisputably the best players in their role, and that's why I'm willing to play a supportive style to help them be the undisputed best players in their role.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say how we match up to past iterations even of Iota, because like, is Kush better than Tough, the mid laner that we had previously mechanically? No, probably not, but Kush brings other like kind of intangibles to our team that we didn't have with Tough, right? Like there's just that leadership aspect and the shot calling that we didn't have before. And maybe because we already have mechanical players in ADC and top lane, we don't need another one in mid. And like the style that Kush brings really is just better for us, right? So I think we'll be able to answer that more once we get some games in going in this season, but I definitely think this could be the best roster that we've played with.
And again, very successful rosters. Only lost in finals. I believe it was a 2-3 result, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 1 game away from winning last split, and you think this one can be even better. That's, I mean, as high praise as you can get, pretty much. And yeah, in terms of the intangibles that Kush brings, I think that's huge. It's one thing to be able to play on the level, and it's another to be able to bring things that not many other players can. So I think that makes me even a little bit higher on your team than maybe I was before, and obviously I was already higher.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, being around, like, I remember when this happened, but there was it was a couple of years back in the CCS, like, it was sort of like the Platinum League, but it was like a D3 capped league. And Kush's roster like ended up winning that league, and that league was like a super league. It had like 40 teams, and it was like the best team from like every league at that point in time. And it was like really, really cool to play in and watch. But it was really cool to see like the grand finals when Kush's team win like Gamma, which like they had really good players on the team, but the team they were playing against probably had undisputably some of the best players like who were Emerald or like Platinum at that time, who I think like almost all hit Masters. It's like, granted, Dojos is still at Emerald, but it was, you had players like Scruff, you had players like Hoshi and Joker, who all went on to have like success in Masters leagues, and like Kush was able to bring like his squad, like, and I think through his leadership, and they were able to beat them. Granted, it's not like Carino and Hasm were slouches, but it's, I think a lot of that roster was like with Kush's leadership, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, and that was the Dorado versus Dorado finals. Like, I think they're second to last split, right? In
Yeah, I think it was
CCS.
Gamma versus Alpha. Yeah,
It was Omega, yeah.
Omega, okay, yeah.
I actually did follow that split. It was, wow, that was a fun one to watch. I think that this one can kind of be on that same level with the amount of teams and talent we have, but maybe not exactly at that level, because that was definitely special. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope for a lot of the teams here.
Yes, same. I think it'll be a really competitive split.
Yeah, all right. So I have to ask, what do you think of the group you were placed in?
I think I've already shared my opinion a lot. It was definitely like when I was sitting there on the draft show and like having Sims pick each team, it was like, oh, it's like we just got like the top, like there isn't a team that's in the lower half, and it's like, well, I think there are like really high level teams in my like tier list I did with like, you know, Cosmos Wings, us, Bing Chillers roster, and I believe there was one more, but I'm forgetting the name. Oh, and ID Honeyfruit. Like, I think we're all like championship level teams. But the bigger standout to me was that there's no easy week. Every single team in our group is good. So it's not like there's a week we can come in and slouch. It's like there was a week I was supposed to be missing when I'm going to visit my brother, and I'm like, now in my head I'm like, okay, my brother's got a PC. How can I be available to play? Because like I think our roster needs to be at full strength to win every week.
Yeah, I mean, that it does seem like a strong group, and you definitely don't want to take a week off. I agree with you there.
Yeah, so I think it's easy to look at our group and say, okay, there are some clear weak teams, right? Like if we look at Spider-Bite Esports Tarantula, I think it's easy to try to write off that team, but I believe they took games off ID Blastcone and AEL, and ID Blastcone was a really good team. I think they could have won it all if things had just gone their way a little bit more. And Sensei Squad and Nari, I think they made it to quarters last split where they were beaten by the eventual champions, XG Fairy, right? So who knows how far they could have gone, right? If they had gotten a different matchup in quarters. Yeah, and like Kpepps said, this is going to be hard every week. There's going to be one or two good teams that just don't make it to playoffs just because they're in Group B. Because I think there are like 6 teams in here that could make it to at least semifinals if they weren't in Group B, right? Like if XG Saturn or Subatomic Gaming were in Group A or Group C, I think they get to playoffs easily, but they're going to really have to work hard, and every team in this group will.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it goes. So obviously, I think that everyone that saw the draw show was like, okay, Group B seems a little stacked, but who knows? We don't know how some of these more unknown teams will come out. But focusing back on your team, I'm curious. You guys are still building chemistry, getting to your peak performance. How often are you guys practicing?
So outside of the game days, we'll scrim 2 to 3 times a week. Barring if there's like any schedule conflicts, but yeah, we definitely like usually scrim 2 to 3 times a week, and if it's like in crunch time or we're not feeling good, it's like we'll throw in that extra scrim day. It's not a ton of going easy for our roster playing in Dorado.
I mean, it comes with expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of having some scheduling issues recently because people have just been like on vacation and stuff. I know I was out of town all of last week, right? So I wasn't able to scrim, but I think when things start picking up, especially when we start actually playing in Titan, like Kpepps said, it'll be 1 game day a week, and then we'll scrim once or twice a week as well.
Yeah, so you guys are feeling like you guys are going to get enough games to really get to the point where you need to by playoffs.
Definitely.
We'll make sure we play enough.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. It sounds like it's pretty good, especially with how you were talking about Kush. But what kind of environment do you think your team has?
I think we're. I don't know if I would describe it this way, or if Mason feels about it this way. I think we're pretty intense, though. It's like we take every game we play pretty seriously. There's not a ton of joking around. we try our hardest. We're pretty harsh on ourselves. We're our own harshest critics. But sort of what's nice about that environment as well is that nobody's feelings gets hurt. It's you can call stuff out as you see it, and I think that leads to a lot of improvement, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is intense. Like, so I'll just give you a little example. So I play in a draft league on Mondays, and I play with Technics actually as my jungler. And we were diving top lane at level 4, and I was waiting on my abilities, and I kind of yelled like now when I was going, and after we killed the guy, Technics was like, you know, like you don't have to yell at me, bro, like it's okay, right? Like just joking around, but I think like on Iota that would be standard, right? Like we're all kind of yelling at each other about what's going on. There's a lot of communication, very loud, right? It's just been hammered into us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, I think at this level that's pretty unique. At least for most teams, I'd say. I think that's really interesting. And obviously, it's definitely had some success in the past. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how you guys do. Now, let's branch out a little bit. We're not going to talk about other teams so much because we kind of talked about that a little bit. But I'm curious, what do you think about the pools of players in your respective position? Like, do you think that it's going to be a strong jungle pool coming into the league, top pool, etc.?
So I guess what I would say is it's like Titan did like sort of a joking like community yeet list, and when you looked on that list, it was like 3 or 4 of the top 5 players that's voted by the community were junglers. So I definitely sort of think that's like reflective of like I think the general strength of the role maybe, or like the general strength of the players in the role. I think it's like the really obvious answers are it's like, and I always have a lot of fun playing against them, and they challenge me a lot in Technics and Zhao Pipi. Like they're both very good players, and it's like I always have. Oh well, I don't know if I can say fun is always the right word, but it's I feel very challenged playing against them. I always have to be mentally engaged. I would also say I know loss or his like tag is not important. He's a really, really good player. I haven't played against him honestly that much, or on teams that I would consider on equal footing. But like, I know he's also a really good jungler. Outside of that, and then I know Kirov for OE Dynasty is also a really good player.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Kpepps. I think at least at the very top end, the jungle pool is the strongest. For top lane, okay, one thing Kpepps always says is that pretty much every team's worst player is their top laner, and I do think that this split is no exception. Usually top lane has the most role swapped players that I've seen, and just general like players that will try to get through the lane by just doing nothing and hope their team will carry them, right? Like they'll just pick a tank, hope they don't die in lane, and hope that they can make it to the team fight stage, right? And that's something that I really enjoy playing against because I think it's really easy to punish those types of players.
I've seen you do it many times.
Yeah. So I think the good top laners that are playing right now are probably Spoobert. I've heard some stuff about this Blingo XD guy, but I've never seen him play, so he might be good.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Blingo is he's a weak side warrior. You'll have fun.
Gotcha. Okay, and honestly, I think I've heard Codis is a good top laner as well, and that wouldn't surprise me. It seems like he's been doing good in the games that I've seen. So, but I'm honestly not too sure who most of these people are, and even on some of the like more popular orgs, like Bing Chiller's, Mikey's minions, their top laner is Neglect. I don't think I've ever seen that guy play, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a surprise, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely going to have surprises throughout. I haven't seen too many of these top laners in the past. With that said, there were some that seemed solid for sure. Well, one that I think will be on the higher end, because I've just seen them before, so I think they will be. From what I've seen in the past, is Boogie from Elysium Atlas. From the top laners I've seen, I think that he'll be probably top 5 too. Have you seen them before? Am I like completely off base?
You know what? I think there's so many people that just have the name Boogie or like something similar to that it's hard for me to keep track. Because I think I played against like an ADC Boogie, a mid lane Boogie, you know.
The ADC Boogie was probably the same Boogie as the funniest thing.
Oh, really? As
Yeah, he
this top
drops
lane
pentas
boogie?
on ADC, and then he's a really solid Fiora player. He's a really good top laner. I've played with him.
Okay. Did we play against him in Nameless?
No,
I feel like
that was what I was thinking of. I don't think you've ever played against him.
Okay,
maybe
because
we
I was
did one
thinking there
time
was
in
a
Scrim, but-
chance we played against him in Nameless and he played like Renekton or something.
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm not sure.
That's
But
all
Wick's
right.
a really
I
good
mean,
player.
we're gonna see. This is gonna be a great season, and I'm really interested to see how it all works out. But it's always great to see kind of people's thoughts, because this is all projection at the preseason point, right? My whole tier list, that's projection. What we're talking about, we have no idea technically. We have some idea for past results, but we don't know what player's gonna come out and just blow us away, you know. So
Right.
Yeah, I think it's like the really obvious example. Just even last split, nobody had XG Flying being a top team.
Very. Yeah.
And then they were definitively like, it's a team that won it all. So it's like nobody saw that at the beginning of the split. So I definitely agree with that.
yeah, and with 24 teams, you know that there's going to be probably multiple that are just going to come out and really surprise everyone, or at least some people.
Krakow V2.
Yeah, Krakow V2, rip.
All right, it's been great having you guys, but I have one more question for you guys. It's not really a question. It's more, I want to give you guys some time to say whatever you want. Anything I didn't ask that you think I could have to give the league a better idea of your team. If you want to have a shout out or a message for the league that you want to bring up, anything like that, this is your time. You don't have to, but if you do have something, go ahead. And take your time. This is, very open-ended, so take some time and think about it.
Here, I got some if you want to think, Kpepps.
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Okay. So I would definitely say shout out to our coach, Hooked on Plays. We could not do anything that we do without him. Like, he gives us all the macro coaching we need. He drafts for us. He does really deep rundowns on the opponents that we're facing. Like, there are whole essays being posted in our team chat about what we should be picking, what the enemy team plays, what kind of comps they play, how they play, right? And he really just puts a lot of time into it when he's not even somebody that's playing, right? So I know we all appreciate everything that he does, and yeah, I think we would be a much worse team without him.
I 100% agree with that. Hooked is like the unsung hero, I guess, of our team. It's the coaches don't stand out as much, and I also think like most coaches are people like that at this level are just honestly fraudulent. Like, they're terrible. So Hooked is definitely not that though, and Hooked does a really, really good job.
Yeah, he's the best coach that I've ever played with for sure.
As a coach, I like that.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll stir the pot a little bit, I guess, for this week.
Okay.
Really excited to sort of begin the payback that we get to hopefully go on a revenge tour this split against all the XG fairies, as they're on like 5 different teams now. So I'm really excited. Week 1 we get to sort of go back at Goatlista. I think he messaged me over like off season, I think, asking if Dorado had spots. Maybe he was asking to join our roster, and we didn't want him on our team. I know that personally, so I'm hoping that this week we can show why and kind of show, he wasn't the reason they beat us. That's for sure.
Well, I think that they call that bulletin board material.
Yeah,
but
now we can't lose to him. But
Now we can't lose.
not again, not again. Oh, goodness. All right. Anything else before I wrap it up?
I think that's it
I think
for
that's
me.
it. That's it for me.
All right, you guys have been great. Thank both of you for coming out. It's really great to get the kind of views of the team and some of the getting into some of the thought processes you guys have. So thanks a lot. You guys have been great. And for everyone that's listening, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the content.